an important subject. Yes, good morning, good morning. Good to see my old friend Akeem on there, all the way back from middle school right there, middle school days. So we talked last week, we talked about, guess I can wait a few more seconds, but last week, to review last week, we really talked about health and the importance of health is we kind of defined health, and then we talked about what good health is, physical, mental, emotional, and then good health, what those things are. What is good health? Good health is not merely just the absence of disease and infirmity. The World Health Organization defines it as, physical, mental, and social well-being. And so I think that was important. We really pulled out, the 5 F's. I like that. The 5 F's for a good mental health report card. So we talked about, fighting for your peace, frequently opening up your book of your life, the book of your life. That means sharing, which means you break away from isolation. You don't let isolation to really set in. And then the forgiveness, forgiving yourself, forgiving others, forgiving yourself when you mess up, not if, but when we make mistakes, when we fail, we must forgive ourselves so that we can be healthy mentally, and then forgiving others as well. And then fighting for peace, different means to fight for your peace. And then the last F was fun. Have fun. Like fun and laughter is a huge part of health. It's a huge part of mental health. Not everything, but it's a huge part of it. And so today I want to talk about something that we all encounter, we all go through, we all encounter this thing. We all deal with this thing, be it one way or another. We all have to face this big monster that seems like it's a monster, and it's called fear. We all have to face fear, right? We have to face fear. We have to encounter fear. We're going to encounter fear. We're going to face fear. Um, we're going to deal with fear one way or another. And so my question is fear a foe, or is it a friend? Good morning, D. Is fear a friend, or is it a foe? Is this something that will kill me, or is this something that can help me? Okay, and that's the question I want to. And of course, I have five keys to turn fear from a foe into a friend. And so let's define fear. Y'all know how we do it. We go through Webster. Webster says a distressing emotion aroused by impending danger, evil, whether the threat is real or imagined. Okay, that's a key right there. The feeling or condition of being afraid. So a distressing emotion aroused by impending danger, evil, pain, whether the threat is real or imagined. So fear, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mike. So fear is something that can be real or imagined. So fear can be just a figment of your imagination, right? Fear can be a battle of your imagination instead of actually being reality. But we also know that perception is reality. So if I fear something or I perceive something, even though it might not be tangibly real, it is my reality. If I absolutely fear it, it can be my reality. And so looking at the Greek definition of fear, and there's many definitions of fear in the Greek and Hebrew, but this one is phobos, which is a phobia. It comes from the root word phobia, and it says the means to withdraw. And I really want to deal with this in this. Yes, absolutely, Kim. I'm going to actually pull that out just to piggyback on what you said. Is some fears are good. Some instances of fear are good. So check this out. Phobos, with means to withdraw, to separate from, to flee, to avoid. And so this is a fear. This fear that I really want to deal with today is a fear that causes you to avoid. It causes you to separate from. So the main thing I need to do is to withdraw, right? I need to withdraw. I need to flee. I need to avoid because of fright, because of dread, okay? And so now this is a fear that's going to cause me to go in the opposite direction of whatever object I'm fearing. Whatever I'm fearing, whatever the object is, this fear causes me to turn in the opposite direction or run or go an opposite way. So I'm reading this article in Psychology Today, and listen what this says. It talks about habituation, defined formally, refers to the fact that nervous system arousal decreases on repeated exposure to the same stimulus. And so, which means that if I can consistently get exposed to something, whether it was a fear of mine or not, if I consistently expose myself to something or habituation, then now that emotion of fear begins to dissipate. It begins to dissipate. It begins to leave. So now, if I can engage this thing and become habitual with it, and I expose myself to it, now that thing has lost its emotion. It's lost my emotion, my response, my emotional response has been weakened, right? And so this is crucial. So they say, but the most important application of the habituation principle has been in the area of anxiety treatment. So they're talking about how to deal with anxiety. The experience of anxiety involves nervous system arousal. If your nervous system is not aroused, you cannot experience anxiety, understandably. But unfortunately, most people tend to cope with feelings of anxiety by avoiding situations or objects that elicit the feeling. So if I feel anxious about a thing, the most common, the most common thing to do, the most logical thing to do is avoid it. If I fear something, if I'm in fear of something, the most logical thing to do is avoid it. Just go the opposite direction. And like I said, it's a thing where I flee, where I'm fleeing, I'm avoiding because of fright. So if I don't want to feel anxious, if I don't want to feel this emotion, then I'll just avoid whatever object is producing this emotion. I'll just avoid it, right? Simple as that. But is it that simple? Is that the way? Is that the way for health? Is that the healthiest way to be successful in life? Is avoiding things that are going to cause anxiety, avoiding things that are going to cause fear, avoiding things that are going to make me want to go the other direction. I actually follow that and I go the other direction. So they also write, therefore, avoidance, however, prevents your nervous system from habituating. So when you avoid anxious moment, things that are causing you to be anxious, this says that it will prevent your nervous system from habituating. So it prevents you from being able to have that nervous system heightened, and then you're able to conquer a thing. You know, when you conquer something that you were nervous about, what does it do after you conquer that thing? There's a sense of accomplishment. There's a sense of, man, I did that. That was awesome. That felt great. That felt great. Just like I remember we went to this water park, and this water slide was like straight down. Like when you get on the water slide, your back comes off the slide. Like that's how straight down it is. So it's a very frightful situation. But when you go to the end, when you get through all that and all that adrenaline's rushing, when you get to the end, it's like, woo, there's an emotion, there's a feeling. You feel your adrenaline and it's like, oh man, that felt great. I want to do it again. Yes, I was afraid for a moment, but I want to do it again. Why? Because you felt the sense of accomplishment. You felt the sense of accomplishment. So this says, if we prevent our nervous system from habituating, avoidance guarantees that the feared object or situation will remain novel and hence arousing and hence anxiety provoking. So what it's saying is when we avoid a thing, and we all know this, when we avoid a thing that we feared, it actually stays there. It doesn't go anywhere. And then also it's still anxiety provoking. So now that thing can actually, what I didn't confront, it's absolutely able to provoke anxiety all the time. Moreover, when you avoid something that scares you, you tend to experience a sense of failure. Now, this is what is not healthy. Failure. Now, failure can be healthy if we use that failure and turn it into the force of success. We turn it into a force of growth. When we turn failure into the force that causes us to grow, that causes us to mature, that's when failure can be an absolute friend. failure can be your friend. Failure can be the friend of success. I said this a lot. I say this a lot. Failure can be the most powerful force for success. It can be. It can be. So this says when we avoid these anxieties, when we avoid these things, we experience a sense of failure. Every time you avoid a feared object or situation, your anxiety gains strength when you lose some. Every time you avoid a feared object or situation, your anxiety gains strength. So the anxiety of that thing that you avoid, it gains strength, this article says. And then it says, every time you avoid the feared object, you accumulate another experience of failure and another piece of evidence attesting to your weakness. This is powerful stuff. So it says, whenever I avoid a fear, now I'm going to feel, I'm going to accumulate the experience of failure. And when I accumulate the experience of failure, another piece of evidence will attest to my weakness. So now if this failure shows how weak I am, and then I keep avoiding the situation, now I'm increasing these failure experiences, these failing experiences. And once these failing experiences continue to heighten themselves, now my weaknesses is consistently growing. They're consistently getting bigger. And then it says, finally, avoidance eliminates practice. Without practice, it is difficult to gain mastery. Without mastery, confidence is less likely to rise. So we can't have confidence without mastery. We can't have mastery if we're afraid to confront something that we failed in, right? Some things that we fail in, some of the things that we fail in are absolutely going to be a part of your professionalism. Like it's the part of your mastery. You know, I remember that commercial that talked about how many times Jordan was talking about how many times he failed, or how many times he missed the game-winning shot, or how many missed shots he made. But it was the fact that practice, that sense of failure, did not neglect his ability to practice at that thing, to continue on that thing. And so I love this quote from Mike Murdock. It says, what you're unwilling to confront, you're unable to conquer. Whatever you're unwilling to confront, you're unable to conquer. We must confront things if we want to be conquerors. And guess what? You have it in you. You have confronted things that you have confronted. You've conquered them. But guess what? It was mostly the things that when your back's against the wall, what are you going to do? There's no choice. There aren't any options anymore. And so you confront a thing by default. And once you confront a thing, now you've conquered a thing. Now you know I can, right? So here it is. So we see the danger of avoidance. The danger of avoidance, in essence, what you avoid will not only remain, but it will become emboldened. The things that we run from, the things that we fear, when we run from things we fear, when we run from objects or situations that we fear, they don't leave, right? They don't leave. They never go anywhere. And matter of fact, not only do they stay there, they get bigger. They get more emboldened. I remember I was in the North City, and I was at work, and I went to take this trash out. So I had to walk. I had to walk away from the building, and I had to take this trash out. There was no bordering gates or anything around this property, right? And so I'm going out, taking the trash out, just minding my own business, and then I see this pit. I see this pit bull, a straight pit bull, and this pit was thick. This wasn't no little rib showing pit. It wasn't no rib showing on this pit, you know. And so, I was afraid. I was afraid. But the problem was I was too far away from the entrance of the building. The dog was closer to me. The pit was closer to me than I was to the building. So we got a problem. So I'm afraid. I have this fear. And so the first thing I did, I started backing up, because I went through the trash up, looked up, saw the pit. You know, the whole world stood still. Everything stood still. And I was afraid. But when we're afraid and we run from a thing, that thing it not only stays, it gets more emboldened. And guess what? Sometimes those things that we fear, it will chase after us. And so as I'm kind of backpedaling, the dog was growling. The dog was coming after me. The dog was coming after me. It wasn't running after me, but it was walking towards me. And then I had to make a decision. I had to make a business decision. I'm not trying to get bit by this pit. I'm not trying to get bit by this pit. This pit bull can do damage. But guess what? My back was against the wall. There was nowhere for me to go. If I would have ran, he would have caught me before I got to the entrance of the door. There was no trucks. You know, I say jump on a truck, jump on a car. We'd do anything, boy. You in the hood, you'll do anything. Once you jump on a car, truck. You don't care who car it is, as long as you get away from that pit. But I realized this dog is sensing my fear. I could pick up that the dog was sensing my fear. And so instead of running, even though I was afraid, I stopped and my disposition changed. I lifted myself up and the dog stopped. Once I stopped, the pit stopped and he looked at me. He was growling and I rose myself up and then I lunged at the dog. I lunged at the pit and thankfully the pit turned and ran. Okay. So the thing that I was afraid of, when I was afraid of it and avoiding it, it was coming after me. But the moment that I stopped, rose myself up, and I embraced and I went to engage that fear, I went to engage that thing that I was fearing, the fear left instead of me running from it. So this is how a lot of times avoidance works. The thing that we are avoiding, it will not only remain, it can get emboldened. And when it gets emboldened, it can actually start following us around. You ever thought about anything you feared, any situation in life you feared, and all of a sudden but you never fixed it, it just follows you around. It's just like an unpaid ticket. It's only going to get worse, right? An unpaid ticket, an unpaid parking ticket or something like that. If I just avoid it, it's only going to get bigger. The problem's only going to get worse. It can even get to a point where now there's a warrant for my arrest simply because I avoided something I just didn't want to deal with. So this is how fear does. So now I want to go into the question. What are you avoiding? I want to ask you, what are you avoiding? Because one thing I realized in life, we're always going to need to conquer something. There's always something we're going to need to conquer. There's always something that's going to produce an element of fear that we need to conquer. So what are you avoiding? Are you avoiding anything? Are you avoiding anything? What are your fears? What are your fears? I believe fear can serve as the key, to life's greatest rewards. I believe that fear can serve as the key to your life's purpose, that your purpose, the key to your purpose can come through fear. The key to your purpose, the key that unlocks your purpose can be fear. I believe this just from my own life, And so I'll use my own life, for instance, as one, public speaking. I'm talking about two things that where I feared. I had fear. Public speaking and then the sport of football. Okay? I'll use those two things. So how I have 5 eyes. 5 eyes to turn fear from a foe into a friend. 5 eyes. 5 eyes. Okay? So the first one is interpret. The first eye is interpret. How to turn a foe into a friend when it comes to fear. How to turn fear into a friend from a foe. What is a friend? A friend is a person who has your best interest at heart. A fear is somebody who supports you. It's something or somebody who supports you. So how can I turn fear into my supporter? How can I turn fear into something that supports me and actually helps me? And it helps me. It has my best interest. It helps me accomplish things. A friend will help you accomplish things. A friend will help you. So how do I turn fear into a friend? The first one is interpret. I must interpret. This word interpret means to give or provide meaning, explaining. I need an explanation. So what do you tell fear? Anything I'm fearing, I need to give it time to explain itself to me. Why are you here? How did you get here? Why do you keep coming up every time I get in this situation? Why do you keep coming, fear? Why do I feel fear? Why do I feel you? And so ask fear, why are you here? In the case of public speaking, I'm that guy. I was that kid who was so afraid to speak in public that I would cry. I was the boy. When I was 4 or 5, I had to do the Easter speeches. I would cry. I would literally cry when I was in front of people. Just the thought of having to stand in front of people and talk brought absolute dread to me. So it's fear. And what is fear? Fear is the thing that causes you to want to flee. You want to run. You want to go in the opposite direction. And that's what public speaking did to me. Okay? So, but if I want to turn a foe into a friend, if I want to turn fear into a friend, I must interpret. I must let fear interpret itself. Explain yourself. So I say, fear, why are you here? Why are you here? Okay? My fear of public speaking, people are staring at me. These are my fears. People might laugh at you. It's uncomfortable. So what are you fearing? What are you fearing? First, get that fear to interpret, to explain itself. Why are you here? Define yourself. Why are you here? And the second thing, football, right? That was the sport I initially feared. I didn't play until I was 12 or 13 years old. But guess what? I feared getting hurt, or you might get hurt. It might hurt when you get hit. It might hurt when you get hit, and you might get hurt. You might get injured. Okay, so the first one is, go ahead, define your fears, interpret them, let those fears explain themselves. Write it down. Write it down. All of your fears, anything that you fear, write it down and let it and interpret it. Interpret those fears. What meaning what meaning do they have? Let them explain themselves. Number two is intercept. Now, to intercept means you seize a thing. You halt the direction of a thing. So now, but how can you seize a thing if you don't know what it is? If you don't know exactly why you fear a thing? How can you seize fear if you don't know why it exists? You must know why it's there in order for you to intercept it. And so to intercept, how can I intercept people? I'm public speaking. I fear people are going to laugh at me. I fear you're going to laugh at me. So how can I accept this fear? How can I intercept this fear? How about, see, this is what I love about these 5 eyes. When you interpret a thing, then you can get a solution on how to intercept it. Once you interpret it, and now it's interpreted, people are going to laugh at you. People are staring at you. People make you feel uncomfortable because you're just standing there and everybody's staring at you. So how can I intercept this? How about a solution? Intentionally make them laugh. So instead of being laughed at, now public speaking, I fear being in public because I fear they're going to laugh at me. So how can I intercept them laughing at me? I can make them laugh intentionally. I can intentionally make them laugh. So now, how? Oh, they're all just looking at you. They're dissecting your life. They're looking at you. They're looking right through to your soul. They're looking into your soul. So guess what? How can I intercept this? How about be transparent as possible to get them to look at themselves? These are things that I've done. These are things that I do. Right? How can I intercept? Okay, I fear the sport of football because I fear getting hit. I fear getting hit where I fear getting hurt. So how can I intercept getting hurt? How about create some different means of protection? How can I protect myself? I can protect myself through making moves, learning how to do juke moves, speed. I have speed, so I can use speed as a force. If I can't go anywhere, I can make a juke move or make a move and hit them. Okay, now instead of being hit, I can hit them. These are ways to intercept. So once I interpret fear, now I can intercept fear. Now I can say, okay, you have a valid point, fear. You fear being laughed at. So let me take that fear of being laughed at and turn it around, intercept it, and take it the other direction. Now make them laugh or make them laugh at themselves. Make a joke. And now I don't feel the fear of being laughed at because I intercepted it. And now I intentionally make them laugh. This is what happens when we embrace our fears, let it explain itself. Then we start coming up with solutions. The third thing is improvement. So first is interpret. Second is intercept. The third is improvement. How can I improve? Can I improve? Or is it the end of the world? Can I improve? If I do get laughed at, is it the end of the world? If I do get hurt, if it does hurt when I get hit on a football field, is it the end of the world? Can I recover from it? Can I improve from it? Ask fear that question. We're talking about how to break fear down and to make it a friend, making it into a friend. Can I improve from this thing? If I do fear, if I fear whatever it is, whatever it may be, can I recover from it? I fear dogs. Or can I actually go ahead, get healed up, get bandaged up, and I can live again? Did somebody go through the same thing that I fear and survive? The answer is yes. Did someone go through what I went through and survive that thing that I'm avoiding because I'm fearing it? Absolutely. We need to be exposed to people who have accomplished and conquered things that we're afraid of, right? So can I improve? The answer is yes. The fourth I is interests. What are the interests? We must know the rewards. You know how to make fear a friend? Know the rewards for conquering that fear. What are the rewards? What are the rewards? This is something we have to be tuned, always in tune with the rewards. There's always a reward on the other side of that thing. There's always a reward. There's always a reward. You ever fear talking to, with my wife? I remember initially, I'm like, oh man, she lives so far away. She lives 5 states away from me. Like, what's the use? But guess what? Embrace that thing. Some of you right now, some of you men, you knew you feared talking to that woman, then you went on and got a number, and now you're married to her, right? you have to know the interest. What is the reward for conquering this thing? What's the reward? Okay, if I keep running from public speaking, if I run from public speaking, okay, if I embrace public speaking, what can come out of it? Oh, well, maybe you have some ideas that can help a person. So the reward is you can help people. That's the reward. See, if you don't know the reward, rewards feed your courage to encounter something. Rewards feed your courage to confront a thing. And when you know the reward, it will feed your courage, which means it will encourage you to go ahead and do it. It will feed your courage. Think about anything you were afraid of. When you thought about the rewards of it, it fed your courage, didn't it? And now you were encouraged based on the reward. We don't get encouraged based on the fear, the downside of a thing. We are encouraged based on the upside of a thing. What's the upside to this? What's the upside? So always look at the upside. What is the interest? What will interest you? What interests you? So be it especially okay with the interest. Oh man. Compatibility, and then family, having that camaraderie, having that teamwork, all that. Those are interests. And the fifth thing is impairment. This is important. What damage can be done if I fail to encounter this thing? What damage will be done if I fail to embrace this? If I fail to conquer this, what damage can be done? We must know these 5 I's. Interpret as far as fear goes. In order to turn fear into a friend instead of a foe, we must explain. Let fear explain itself. Why am I fearing? Why do I fear this situation? Write it down. What do I fear? Why do I fear them? Write it down. And then we must intercept it. Turn that thing. Halt the direction of that thing. Once I know what that thing is, once I know why I fear a thing, now figure out how can I intercept this? How can I turn this around? How can I turn this, take this the other direction? Then the third one is improvement. Can I improve? Can I recover? Right? Am I going to die if I don't embrace this fear? If I don't encounter this fear? And number 4, what are the rewards? What's the interest? The 4th I is interest. What is the interest of this? What are the interests? What are the rewards? What are the rewards? You notice how when they really, really want something, if the government wants something, they'll put these rewards up there because they're thinking somebody knows something, but unless they have a reward, they'll never have the courage to come up and speak. They'll never have the courage to come out. They'll remain in fear. They'll remain in inactivity, and they won't come out. But if there is a reward, then that will encourage them to share what they have. They know this. They know because fear will cause people to be inactive. It will cause inaction. And when we have inaction, then there's a cost, there's a price to pay. And sometimes when we fail to act, we just sit there and that thing just bubbles up on the inside of us. And then the last one is impairment. What damage can be done if I don't face this? What if I never conquer the fear of public speaking? What if I never conquer the desire to play a sport, to play a sport? And remember I said my sport was football. Remember I said I believe fear is the key to some of our greatest rewards in life. I believe fear can be the key to our purpose in life. our purpose in life. You know what? When somebody asks me what's my purpose in life, you know what it involves? It involves public speaking. It involves the very thing that I feared the most as a child. As a child. So your fear actually is your friend. Fear is actually your friend. If you do these things and you look into them and you figure them out, and then you can conquer things. Most people who are the most successful people I've ever met, ever been around, ever read a book or a biography or anything like that, the thing that they feared, once they conquered that fear, that's when everything just opened up for their lives. And we're no different. The thing that you conquer, the thing that you are courageous enough to conquer, that fear that you're courageous enough to conquer, it will be the key. It will unlock rewards for you. It will unlock purpose. It will unlock purpose. And many times the thing that holds our purpose, there's always going to be a fear that stands in between us and our purpose. It's always going to be something that stands in between, and that's fear. It's a fear. I can't do this, or I can't do this, or else. But when we conquer that thing, that's the rewards are vast. Another impairment, another thing that will be great damage when we fail to conquer our fears is you'll never know what your abilities are. You'll never know how to fulfill and how to maximize your potential. You'll never know. You'll never know. I was afraid that the sport I was afraid most of when I was 12 and 13, by the time I was a senior in high school, I could have went to 20 big Division I schools. 20 schools were asking me, come to my school. I'll pay you a full free scholarship. I'll pay you a free scholarship to come to my school. A free scholarship to this big school. And you can get that. Guess what? Your greatest rewards. What are you running from? What fears? What fears are you avoiding? What fears are you avoiding? Embrace those things. There's a reward on the other side. There is a reward on the other side. Break those things down. Break those things down. Public speaking. Now I public speak, and my only desire is to help people. That's it. That's it. And so when people tell me, oh, this helped me, guess what? It lets me know that me conquering that fear of public speaking was absolutely worth it. It paid the reward because now somebody else's life is at least being encouraged. So, we're in a series in my church. We're in a series called Giant Slayers. Giant Slayers. And we all know that Goliath was this giant, right? But guess what? I want to challenge you to think that we all have giants in our lives. We all have Goliaths. We all have them. But people don't know, for 40 days, we know everybody knows the story of David and Goliath, but a lot of people don't realize that for 40 days, Goliath was coming every day, and he was taunting the whole army of Israel. He was taunting them, like, who's going to stand up to me? Send me a man. 40 days. So that's how fear is. When we don't confront it, it's not going anywhere. It's going to keep on taunting. It's going to keep getting bolder. Each day that is not confronted, it gets more bold. It gets more emboldened. And that's what happened with Goliath. He was so bold, and every day just coming out. For 40 days consecutively, he came out. And eventually, David realized, why are y'all afraid? This guy is defeatable. Because what? I defeated the lion and the bear in my past. I defeated a lion. I defeated a bear. This dude, he'll be just like that lion and bear. And guess what? You have defeated and conquered major things in your life. Major things in your life you have conquered. So the giant that's in front of you, the same way you conquered those last things in your life, that thing that tried to take you out, you're going to conquer this giant that's in front of you, that's standing right in front of you. You can conquer it. You can conquer it. And you conquer it with your abilities. Not someone else's. You conquer it with your abilities. David couldn't conquer Goliath like everybody else wanted to fight. He couldn't do it with all the armor and the helmet and the breastplate and the sword. That wasn't his ability. His skill was in slingshot. That was his skill, a slingshot. And that's how he defeated his giant, and that's how you'll defeat yours. Find out what your fears are. Think about your skill. Think about your abilities, and then be blessed. God bless you guys.